Hey guys, it's Dan here. In this week's video, I wanted to give you 10 useful tips for a successful career in finance. So for whom is this video? Well, for everybody who wants to enter in a financial career, for example, and enter it the right way, or for everybody who is already in a financial career and wants to improve and wants to do things better. So that being said, let's get started, guys. First of all, number one tip, let's talk about tools. What tools do you need in the financial industry to work in finance? Well, I give you a quick story. When I started my business degree, actually in the first year I had an internship, and after 1 month I asked my boss, can I have another month? I work for free, but I'm doing it for experience. And he told me, no, actually, sorry, you are useless because you don't know Excel and PowerPoint good enough. So that was kind of the right kick at the right moment. So what I can tell you from experience, and it's gonna make a huge difference to get a job and to progress in your job, work on your Excel skills. Excel is the most important tool you have to know. It's super important. It doesn't matter if it's in corporate finance, if you are some kind of analyst, or in market finance, if you are a trader or something like that, or even if you have a startup. Excel, super important. So what do I mean by that? You have to be professional in it, you know? You have to be an expert. And what do I mean? Well, these are the formulas you gotta know. First of all, of course, VLOOKUPs, some ifs for several criterias from the sum if formula, filters to filter correctly the data, pivot tables to make different types of cubes, charts of course, and properly clean your data. So this is the Excel stuff you really gotta know, and so if somebody wakes you up at 3 in the morning, you gotta be able to do a VLOOKUP, you know what I mean? So Excel, super important. If you don't know Excel, forget finance, you will not be able to enter finance and to stay in finance. Second one, it doesn't matter what you do in finance, you will also probably have to do some kind of presentations for your boss. So of course you gotta know PowerPoint. Make sure, don't try to write a book inside of PowerPoint, okay? It's all about bullet point presentations. People don't want to read for 5 hours your presentations, they have 5 minutes of time. You gotta be concise, accurate, and well, and ready to go basically. So bullet point presentation, super important. Colors and size choices really matter, so read a few things about PowerPoint, try things, don't go crazy with colors and sizes, make sure it's consistent. And also, that's a kind of a little plus point when it comes to PowerPoint, learn how to link PowerPoint to Excel. If you have a great graph in Excel, for example, and you want to copy paste it into PowerPoint, make sure it's linked, because if Excel changes, PowerPoint should change as well. This is kind of, it's called link PowerPoint to Excel. Make sure you gotta know how to do this. Number two, let's talk about financial knowledge. Well, that sounds like a no-brainer. You're gonna say, yeah, of course you need financial knowledge if you wanna enter finance, which is of course correct. But hear me out on this one. If I had to sum up my financial experience over the years, actually I have a master's degree in finance, so 5 years of finance, plus about 7 years in different roles, treasury analyst, financial analyst, consultant, and these kind of things. I would put it like this. You need a right balance, a right mix between theory, practice, and stay up to date. Let me explain. First of all, of course, you need some kind of education. It doesn't have to be a master's degree in finance, but at least you need to have some theory, you know? You need to have, maybe it can start with a certificate if you don't know exactly what you want. You don't have to mortgage your house to enter the financial market, but make sure you know the theory. Make sure you know what a hedge fund is. Make sure you know what how financial markets work and all these things. It's important to know the theory behind what you will do in the future. Second point, of course, here, job experience. So if it's your first job, that's a difficult one, but try at least to enter with an internship or something like that. I have done 5 internships in 5 years, and that's why I knew when I started, okay, I want to be a treasury analyst because I have tried different things that I didn't like so much, for example. Practice, very important. And what is super underrated, but I guarantee you it's going to help you a lot, is stay updated and learn more with financial literature. I give you an example. I wouldn't check out Bloomberg every day or something like that. It's way too much information and you're gonna be lost. But for example, myself, I've been reading, for example, The Economist. The video is not sponsored by The Economist, but the newspaper, The Economist, comes out once a week. Read it. It's like $3-4 or something, $5 maximum per week, but it's very well invested money because you're gonna learn so much more, and it's gonna give you a very wide view on finance. So, tip number 3, let's talk checks and balances. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, let's say if you're working in an Excel document and you have different formulas, right? Let's say 10 sums or something like that. Make sure that you have a check formula at the bottom that checks if all the 10 sums equal to what is inside of each of the formulas, okay? So make sure that's kind of an idiotic mathematical check, but do it because sometimes there are always some kind of mistakes, even if you're good in Excel. Of course, I make mistakes all the time, but the most important thing is you have to catch stupid mistakes that are just a wrong formula or something like that. That shows you that you have a brain, you know. Then, of course, apply common sense and logic. For that, let's say if your company is making $1 billion of sales a year, then the profits will not be 100 billion, you know what I mean? So that's kind of just common sense to know where you stand and what is around you. That's very important. And what is also very important, what I call relax to focus, is like, let's imagine you have a report that you want to send your boss at 5 p.m. Make sure then, let's say you are done at 2 p.m. What you're gonna do, you're not gonna send it at 2. Once you think, okay, I'm done with the report, wait for a second, go out maybe for 15-20 minutes on the fresh air or something, come back with clean eyes and a clean brain, and look at it again if it makes sense. If it makes sense, then you can send it. But always have this little check in mind. Check and balance is very important, guys. Number 4, quality first, deadline second. What do I mean by that? There are always two things that play into consideration. Of course, deadline and quality. Why am I saying quality first? Think about a restaurant. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to get your food directly on time and it tastes like dog food? Or do you prefer to wait a little bit and get a great quality? Well, I think you probably want the second as most of us. Why am I saying that? Usually, of course, the goal is to make sure the deadlines are respected and all the things, but sometimes it's not possible. There's so much pressure in a project and something like that, and you have to deliver super quickly. In this case, you have to clearly communicate, I'm not going to be able to deliver my standard quality in only 2 hours, I need 4 hours, for example. And then people maybe will complain, but at least people will know that you are the guy that delivers quality and it will help you in the long run. Because think about the other thing. If you are delivering shit and respecting the deadlines, nobody cares about your work. If you are delivering bad quality, absolutely nobody cares. A restaurant that delivers bad food always on time will shut down. You know what I mean? Very simple. Quality first, deadline second. Of course, the goal is also to meet the deadlines, but they have to be realistic. And if they are not realistic and you cannot do your quality work, you have to communicate it clearly. Number 5, work on your storytelling and on summing up information. I give you an example. I was working for a CFO a few years ago. She was telling me, I started to tell her, yeah, we found this and this and this. And she told me, no, you know what? Start with the result first, and then if I'm interested, tell me the rest of it. And I think that's a very good approach, especially when you're approaching a CFO or some kind of executive. Always start with your key sentence, okay? These guys don't have a lot of time. So start in 20-30 seconds, explain what you want or what you have to deliver as a message. Let's say profits are down by 10% this month, and then, okay, because of A, B, C. This is your message, okay? You don't want to, nobody cares about the name of your dog, okay? So make sure to work on your storytelling and be able to sum up quickly and accurately information. Number Number 6 on the list, zoom in and zoom out. Make sure your brain is trained to zoom in data and to zoom out of data. Why am I saying that? And I think it's very special for finance. Every job you do in finance requires usually two things. You have to kind of have a big picture of the company and be able to focus on big picture, and also to be super detail oriented. I give you an idea. For example, you gotta be able to say, okay, we made so much sales this month. Is it okay compared to last year, compared to the entire company, and compared to all the countries we have, something like that. So you have to be like a big picture mind. But on the other side, if you need to validate, let's say, an invoice, or if you need to make a payment, you got to be able, of course, to check all the details, because it's 1659 and not 1669, you know what I mean? These kind of things. So big picture and detail oriented, meaning you got to be able to zoom in and to zoom out, and this gonna make you a very good analyst in the long run. Number 7, know your audience. That's a very big one. I give you an example. Let's say you are hired as a treasury analyst or financial analyst, and let's say you are reporting to the manager or even to the CFO. You got to know this person. You got to know what are the expectations, especially for a presentation, for example. Am I delivering in 5 minutes or in 2 hours? These kind of things. Then the format is also very important. The person I'm presenting to, is he or she, does she prefer maybe PowerPoint, Excel, Word, something different, something vocal, maybe a video, whatever. That's very important. And also, I remember a CFO. Usually, I also use. Usually, I like to use graphs, because graphs make a lot of sense. It's very simple to understand. But this woman was a CFO. She said no, she hates graphs. She wants to see tables with numbers, actually. So you gotta know your audience, ideally in advance, or maybe if you don't know it in advance, make sure you learn from your mistakes. And then also very important, how will your message, how will your presentation be displayed? Will it be in a small room so you can use maybe more detail and these kind of things, maybe on a screen or something? Or will there be like 10 persons in the room, in a big conference room, and nobody will see what you are trying to show, because it's too small, for example? Very important tip. Number 8 is related to behavior. That's super important, especially in finance, given the scandals and history of finance. So in my opinion, you gotta be 4 things: trustworthy, reliable, honest, and compliant. Let me explain. Trustworthy. Think about it. People should have trust in you, and you have to deserve this trust, but only if, don't forget, you're dealing either with money or with sensitive financial data, okay? People need to be able to trust you, and you gotta give back this trust. That's very important. Otherwise, if the trust is gone, your job is gone, and maybe your career is gone, because companies talk to each other. Reliability is also very important, a bit like with your car. If you are sick every 2 days because maybe you're not motivated or something, people will notice, and it's not gonna be good for you. Next, honesty. Of course, honesty and transparency and trust go hand in hand, obviously. If you make a mistake, I made a ton of mistakes, especially when you're working in treasury with payments and these kind of things. When you realize, my boss once, he was saying, okay, don't release this payment before I tell you, and he was writing me an email. I didn't read this email. I sent out the money, and well, this was the mistake, of course, but I told him immediately, sorry, I didn't read your email, I made this mistake. So make sure, be very proactive when it comes to mistakes, because you're dealing with money, you are dealing with financial information. That's very sensitive stuff, so make sure if you make a mistake, be transparent, be honest, it's gonna help you a lot. And then, of course, you gotta be compliant. There is a lot of compliance going on in the world, especially since the financial crisis, 2008. So just make sure to respect the rule. Don't make stupid mistakes when it comes to rule breaking. Number 9 on the hit parade, proactive listening. Super important. Usually a lot of people talk too much, they don't listen enough. How do you proactively listen? That's very, very important. Well, first of all, listen carefully, okay? Don't talk, listen. Second of all, Pay attention to details. Is the person talking about Q3 or the last 3 quarters, for example? That's very important. Also ask questions if it's unclear. Did you talk about Q3 or was it the last 3 quarters? Make sure you are understanding the message. And of course, at the end, that's also very important, rephrase at the end. So make sure to say what you think you have understood, so that the other person can say, no, I was not talking about Q3, I was talking about the last 3 quarters. So you are not losing time afterwards. Very important. Last but not least, number 10, let's talk about the dress code in finance generally. Of course, it depends on the company. It depends on, let's say, if you're an analyst or something, and if you're working for a cool startup, maybe it's gonna be less dressed, of course. If you're working for an investment bank, it's gonna be tie and suit and all that stuff. So of course, make sure, especially when you interview and afterwards, make sure how should I dress. And my advice here, overdress is always better than underdress. For an interview in finance, I always wear a suit and tie usually, and even sometimes I have been overdressed, but I got the job because people prefer when you are overdressed, because you are taking the thing seriously. You know, that's very important. If you come underdressed and you look like less dressed than all the rest of the interviewers, not a good sign for you. What you also have, don't forget the following thing also. Finance people usually dress better than the rest. I mean, I'm not saying all finance people look better. I'm just saying that I remember I was working for a company where a lot of people were wearing t-shirts, for example, but the finance guys were all wearing shirts. So usually for men, shirt is a pretty good thing, kind of a middle thing, because you are never too underdressed and never too overdressed, so it's pretty fine. So now that you know the 10 tips, I wanted to know, where are you in your career right now? What are your plans? Tell me which tip is the most helpful, or maybe did I forget one that you would like to tell the others as well. So make sure to comment. Of course, make sure to like this video if you like that content. I post once a week every Sunday, so if you like corporate finance, market finance, if you want to work on your knowledge, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like. See you in a week. Enjoy. Bye bye, guys.